to it, and then they said some things and I was like, I don't know if I like that. This is my book of the year. I give this one also 5 stars. Are you surprised? Not really. What am I getting myself into? I just want to see it through. I don't have the heart to DNF a book. Hello everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooklyn, and for today's video, I thought it'd be fun if I filmed a mid-year wrap-up. Before we get into this video or anything about it, look at my nails. Isn't that fun? Look at this. I just have to show you guys these real quick because I did them earlier this week for the 4th. I did them myself. So I'm actually pretty proud of this because I have done Gel X before in the past, but I recently got these new round Gel X tips. So I thought I'd show you guys what I'm doing for the 4th. I will be giving you guys updates throughout the rest of the year as I continue to do my nails. Anyways, back into what this video is about. I wanted to do a mid-year wrap up because it is actually July as I'm filming this, so I kind of missed like the halfway mark in June, but we're still halfway through the year nonetheless, and that is insane. The fact that we are already 6 months into 2025. I feel like I am so behind in terms of book reading stuff. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was my reading goal that I set for this year. Last year for 2024, I was able to read 50 books. So I thought for 2025, I would set my reading goal at 75. I definitely feel like I'm capable of doing this. Let me go on Goodreads real quick and see where I'm at. So on Goodreads, I am at 20 out of my 75 books. And it says that in order for me to get back on track, I need to read 17 books. I have hit a couple of slumps this year, more than I have last year. And that's kind of typical for me. This year, I graduated college and I also played basketball at the University of Hawai'i. I always slump out during the months of February and March because that's like peak season. In the summer times, I always get back to my goals. I've definitely gotten back into the mood of wanting to read and pick up books. So I'm really relying on summer to get me back on track, but 20 books is still good for anyone too. So I'm not gonna try and be too hard on myself if I don't reach my goal. This year I just definitely wanna read the books that I've had on my TBR for quite some time now, but I've definitely ran into some slumps. I have high hopes that I'll be able to reach my goal before the year ends. Obviously I have 6 more months. I have every piece of technology with me, but I have my Notion pulled up here and this is how I keep track of everything I read. I recently updated this since I've been home. This helps me just really visualize and see where I'm at each month. I'm just gonna go through each month and tell you guys how many books I read. For January, I read 6 books. This was definitely a really good month for me, obviously. I don't know why, I was just like in such a big reading mood. I think especially coming off from like Christmas, I just have more downtime to do all that and I'm not really in school. And then February, I read 3 books. March, I read 1 book. That's once again kind of because of basketball season peaking and stuff. And then April I read 4, which is pretty good. May I read 3, and then for June I also read 3. I recently just finished one like right before the month ended. So that totals up to 20 books. Now I want to go more in depth because I haven't done any wrap-ups or anything this year, and I really wanted to go into depth for some of these books that I've read because I never filmed a video for them. I never really talked about them, and some of them I absolutely love. So before I get into all of the books, I guess I just want to talk about my rating system and how I count the books that I read. So I typically do not DNF books. I try to see books through. Maybe in the future I will, but I purchase these things and I am gonna read them. I mean, I guess I could get rid of it, but also it's like, I just wanna see it through. I don't have the heart to DNF a book, but maybe eventually I'll get over that. I don't DNF books, and I count audiobooks as like books read, and then I have counted books that I've re-listened to on Audible. You'll see what I'm talking about later on, but I kind of had to cut that back because I was re-listening to books, and I feel like that should and shouldn't count, but I'm just gonna cap myself on where I'm at right now and then not count anymore if I reread this specific book. Anyways, very vague, but you will understand it later on in the video. In terms of rating, I am a very simple rater. I don't really focus too heavy on like writing style, plot. If I'm able to read the book and thoroughly enjoy it, I'm definitely big on the romance. I love me a good MMC. Then I will give it like a 5 star. I'm trying to be a little more like stingy with my 5 stars and be a little more specific and stuff, but typically I rate books between like 3.75 all the way to a 5. Some books like 6+, and that's when you know like I love those books. That's kind of my rating system. I'm not too judgmental. Sometimes I'll be like really aggressive about a book if I don't like it and just say like I don't like it. That's how I rate my books. That's how I count all my books and stuff for all of my final tallies. Starting for the month of January, of the 6 books that I've read, the first book I read in January was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I read this on my Kindle. I've seen a lot of stuff on TikTok about this, and it was very slow paced, and the beginning was really hard to get through. I think I said like the first 100 pages was really tough to get through, but then once you reach past like the middle part and it like kind of peaks, it gets really interesting. interesting. I think this was advertised more on Book Talk as like a romantasy, very high tension, like that type of thing, like enemies to lovers. But I would say the romance is definitely the subplot of this book, and it's very high politics. I love the main characters of these. I love like the whole setting. I know there's a lot of like split opinions of this book, but I personally really liked it. I definitely want to read the second, I believe there's a third one. It's like a trilogy. I ended up rating that book 4.75 stars. The next book I read for January was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I re-listened to this book on audio because Onyx Storm was coming out, and I also just wanted something to listen to. I re-listened to like the dramatized version as well because, like I said, I was prepping for Onyx Storm, and I personally didn't like Iron Flame because I feel like it took too long, but I loved Fourth Wing, so I was like, you know what, let me just like refresh my brain with all the people in that book. I gave that book a 5 stars. I love that book. Definitely recommend it if you want to get into like a fantasy, more like romantasy. The next book, I actually listened to this book because I have my Spotify hours as well, and I kept running out, so that's why this book took me so long to read. This took me all like December and January to get through, but it's Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. I love this book. Anything, I was also on a really big Jacob Morgan, or what's his name? Jacob Morgan has 2 like names that he uses when he does audio stuff, so I don't know his second name. I can't remember it right now. But I was on a really big kick for his audiobooks because I love the way he narrates, and his just like the style he narrates in is so good. I saw that he narrated this, and I've never really read like a dark romance, and I thought it would be fun to give it a try. But the trigger warnings at the start of this book, I was like, what am I getting myself into? But I promise you it's not that bad, but it's dark romance. So I ended up giving this book 4.75 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook, the audio version of it. It's so fun. I love it. The next book I read, I distinctly remember reading this book because I was so hooked on it, but we were like in California playing CSUN, and I just had my Kindle on the bus, and like May's sitting in front of me. She's like, BK, like we're about to go to practice, like you need to walk in. Like I was really into this book. It's The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. I believe it's the Maid series. I don't know how many books are in this. This one I absolutely loved. It's my first mafia romance, and it was so good. It's so addicting, and I feel like it's simple enough to where like you can follow along with it, but it's not like heavy world building, but there's still enough into it to kind of like dip your toes in to get the sense of like what a mafia romance is like. And I feel like this one's pretty tame. I'm sure there's other mafia romances out there that are way more aggressive than this, but I loved it, and I ended up rating that one a 5 stars. Once again, I had a lot of 5 stars in the month of January. I was just dishing them out. And the next book I read was Light Lark by Alex Astor. This book is a fantasy. I would kind of say like a romantasy, but there's definitely world building and like kind of some politics, but nothing that crazy, but you still need to pay attention. I would definitely say this is like a good intro book if you want to get into fantasy. I've once again seen a lot of split reviews on this book, but personally I loved it because of the MMC and just the other characters involving around it. I really love the world of this, and I also had a killer playlist on Spotify, and if my book and the music I'm listening to go really good together and I'm like listening to the playlist outside of reading the book, then that's how I know I'm really enjoying the book, because the music reminds me of it and I just like want to keep reading it and staying in that like world. This book is really fun. It's kind of slow at some parts, but I feel like the ending really picks up, and there's like this big twist at the end of the story that like caught me off guard completely. I give this one also 5 stars. Are we surprised? Not really. I would definitely recommend this. The final book that I read for January was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the 3rd book in the Imperium series. I gave it a 5 stars. I feel like now looking back, I probably would have given it like a 4.5, 4.75. I don't know. I feel like I rushed to read it because I was filming it for a video too, and I needed to get that video out, and I was just like on the road reading. I got on my Kindle because last time I read Iron Flame, it took me a month. So I was like, maybe on my Kindle, I'll be able to read it faster because I'm not carrying around this bulky book. I really liked it. I think I'm just not that into the Fourth Wing like series as much as I thought I would be. I definitely like was more into like Powerless and like that trilogy. In terms of world building and how this series is going, I definitely think it's a good read, and it was really good for part of the story that they're in, I guess. I originally gave it 4.5 stars, but I bumped it up to 5 because I think out of all the books, it would go like Fourth Wing, Onyx Storm, Iron Flame. But this one was really good. I don't think it was as stagnant, and we went to a couple places and we learned more about like the dragons and that system and how all that worked. I am excited for the next book, but I don't know when we are going to get that because she said she's going to take a little break. Moving on to the month of February, I read 3 books for this month. The first book that I read was Deep End by Allie Hazelwood. I was dying to get my hands on this book. I went to Target so many times to get it, and it was sold out every time. And I was in Hawaii, and I was like, there's no way there's like that many people like wanting to buy this book. Like, it's just Allie Hazelwood, like whatever. Sold out. every time. So then I was like, you know what, I gotta order it on Amazon. Ordered it on Amazon, got the sprayed edges, and I'm so happy I did because I guess they're not doing that for every book. This is my book of the year. I'm just gonna put that out there now. I gave this book 6+ stars. If you not know what the premise of this book is about, first of all, it's definitely one of Ali Hazelwood's more spicier books, but I think it's more just like the topic that they're entertaining is more like spicier. This book focuses on 2 college swimmers at Stanford, and their names are Scarlett and Lucas. I really made a connection with Scarlett from this book because I don't know if it was just like I think it was right book, right time for me. She's a college student athlete, and during the time I was reading this, I was also a student athlete, so I was able to see where she was thinking and her point of views and many of her ideology and her thoughts and stuff, and just like the pacing of the book. I've seen a lot of negative feedback about like a lot of the plots being open-ended or not finished and stuff, and I just kind of feel like not everyone understands it because they weren't D1 athletes. And I'm not saying you have to be to read the book because that's kind of like overkill. For me, I was able to really connect with it because I saw like in Lucas and in Scarlett how they thought, I was like, that's such like a student athlete thing. And I think Ali Hazelwood just really did a big one with this one in terms of getting into that mental space for those characters and writing so similar to how I feel like athletes think. The romance was really good. I really enjoyed it. I love Lucas as an MMC. I also feel like with Ali Hazelwood books, I always get lost in her books, and it's so immersive, and her writing style is just so easy to read and follow along that when I'm reading it, I don't really worry about what time it is. Like I'd stay up till 1 o'clock when I was reading it, and I was like, that's how I know it's a good book, because I would lose track of time. I love the timeline of it. I love the characters. I love the plot. I just love the aspect of it being student athletes and swimmers and stuff. I thought that was so cool, and yeah, I just loved it. So that's my final take on it. The next book that I read was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This is also another gothic fantasy, more fantasy, but there's this magic card system thing that our female main character is trying to solve and stuff, and that's like really all I'm gonna say because I went into it blind. Really wanted to read this one because I also saw like a quote on TikTok from the MMC and it delivered. I ended up rating this book 5 stars. I love this book. I have yet to read the second book. I'm pretty sure this is only a duology. I need to get around to it. I started it, but then I kind of like soft DNF'd it, and I will be getting back to that. The final book that I read for the month of February was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I listened to this one on Audible, I believe, and it was just kind of like in passing when I was like making breakfast or just like going from thing to thing. I wasn't fully paying attention to it, but I saw that it was getting a lot of hype on TikTok, so I was kind of curious. I didn't really like it, if I'm being so honest. I mean, if I were to like take a step back and remove my feelings from it, I could appreciate the plot and the overall outcome of the story. Like, I like the characters and stuff, but I also didn't. Like, sometimes in fantasies, it's just kind of like a wash, rinse, repeat of characters and like personalities, and it just gets old sometimes. So I feel like I was just heading towards a slump, especially after Deep End. I was just trying to find something to keep me occupied, or like just at least to read, and it just wasn't hitting for me. I know a lot of people like this, but I personally didn't like it. I gave it a 3.75 stars. I know that's still kind of high, but like I said, taking my emotions out of it, the story was pretty good. If I was more invested in it, I think I would have liked it more, but I just don't think it was the right timing for me to be reading it. So this is where the rereads begin. For the month of March, I read 1 book, and it was Deep End. And I didn't even really read it. I listened to the audiobook of it because I was seeing TikToks of it and how people were saying the audio version was really good. So I was like, you know what? Love me a good audio narrator. Let me check it out. So Deep End is not dual point of view, but the narration has a male and a female for Lucas and then one for Scarlett. And the man who did Lucas's, so good. 10 out of 10. Ate it up. He has like a little Swedish accent. Lucas in the book's from Sweden, and I just really liked the like performance and the narration of Lucas in the book. And I feel like sometimes when you're reading it, you have your own tone, your own style, like how the scene's happening, but then when you're listening to the audiobook, it's like completely different from when you first read it. And I really like that because it just kind of like changed the book for me too. So it was like I read it like 2 different versions, like one on my own and one that was like kind of intended. Once again, 6 star. Rating didn't change. It was just more a reread. And if you're on the fence once again of reading this book, maybe listen to the audiobook instead. My friend May is actually listening to it right now, and she was texting me. She's like, BK, I started the book. Oh my gosh. And I was like, like, I'm so excited about it. If you're on the fence about reading it, at least listen to the audiobook because I promise you won't be let down by Lucas's voice. Moving on to April, we had 4 books in April. Once again, we had a re-listen to of Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I was on a really sick cycle where I would finish it and then I was like, like I don't know what I want to read, like whatever, and then I just go back to chapter 1. Fearless came out by Lauren Roberts, and this is the 3rd book in the trilogy. I love this trilogy, so I was really excited to read it. I honestly like had such a hard time reading this book. I don't know what it was. I think it was just kind of like bad timing in my life and I wasn't like that invested in the story, but this one took me a while to get through and I kind of broke it up into 2 parts. It was like one before I had surgery and one after, and I just kind of like powered through it. But I gave this book a 4 stars. I probably would put it a little lower. I did like how it wrapped up, but I just felt like I just didn't get the same vibes like I did in the first 2 books from Kai and Peyton, especially Kai. Like normally I'm like swooning over that character, but in this one it just didn't feel like him. Everything just felt really off in this book, and I don't know how else to verbalize it. It was a good book and it finished up the trilogy really nice, but there was just something like something was missing. I don't know how else to say that, but Kai, as always, it has a way with words and very poetic. I appreciated that aspect of the story. I don't really know how else she could have ended it, but it wasn't what I was fully expecting. The next book that I read was Mile High. I was reading this and Fearless at the same time because I wanted to read something other than Fearless because I wanted to give Fearless my like full attention. So in the meantime, I was like, I might as well just read like another book. Probably the worst decision I could have done. Mile High by Liz Tomford. I gave this book 2.75 stars. Not my favorite book. As you can see, if you can tell, I have these. I recently just bought these little series. They're so pretty. Mile High took me so long to finish and it was just never ending. I think there was like 400 plus pages in this book, and I didn't like, I really liked their story. I loved Xander. What's the other one's name? I can't think of her name. Well, I know the man's name. Anyways, I just couldn't do it. Like, their story was cute and stuff, but the FMC was a little insufferable, and just like the way that like her mentality, I don't know how to describe it, but it kind of irked me and it took me out of the book. You know, like there's like things when like they mention TikTok or like the real world or social media in a book, it kind of takes you out of that space of fiction, and it kind of did this here just for me because the character was just a little insufferable for me. But I liked her in some parts, and then some parts I didn't. The story was just dragged on, but I heard that like this book isn't the favorite amongst the other books in the series, and just to kind of give the other ones a shot. Final book that I read for the month of April was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I needed something else. I was in such a slump. I was like, Mile High has knocked me down and kicked me while I was down even more so. Like, I needed something else. You know what? I have some Ali Hazelwood books that I have not read yet, and that's Bride and Check in May. And I was like, you know what? I have Bride on my Kindle. I was a little on the fence with this one because it's like werewolf vampire, and I've never read a book like that, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, and it's like Omegaverse or something. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. There was like a part at the end that kind of irked me or like cringed me out from it because I was really into it, and then they said some things and I was like, I don't know if I like that. I think if you're wanting to get into like that type of genre, could be a good book for it. Once again, I think you could pull one of Ali Hazelwood's books out of a lineup just based off her writing style. So specific and unique to her, and I just absolutely love it. So she could literally write anything and I would read it and love it. It was definitely a good story. There was like little plot twists and stuff towards the end. You were trying to figure out this big mystery of it, and I would recommend it if you like Ali Hazelwood, or if you want to get into like Omegaverse. I don't really know. Moving on to May, we had 3 books in May. I have 2 audio re-listens. Not both of the same book that you might be thinking. The first one was We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. I think in July, the 3rd season of The Summer I Turned Pretty is coming out. It is Conrad's season. It is Conrad's book. We are Team Conrad on this channel. I was seeing like the new trailers and stuff, and I couldn't remember some of the scenes. So I was like, you know what? Let me re-listen to the books. I read these books 2 summers ago, the audio versions. If you guys do not know, the actors who play the characters from the books, Belly narrated her own book, Jeremiah narrated his book, and then Conrad narrated his book. So if you're really interested in audiobooks, I would definitely recommend that. And if you want to read this little trilogy, do that because it's really fun, because you get to hear the actors and the way they do it. But Conrad's book is the 3rd book, and he did such a good job narrating it. I wanted to listen to it again and kind of familiarize myself with everything that happened in it before the new season came out. And I gave this book 5 stars initially when I read it, and it's gonna stay at 5 stars. The next book that I listened to was another reread, and that is Deep End again. Sorry about it. I miss the characters, and I've never felt this way about a book before. to want to actually reread it and re-listen to it so many times as I did. Another reread for Deep End. And then the third book that I read for the month of May, the final book, was The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. This is the second book in the Maid series, and this followed Christian and Gianna, Christian Alistair. Yeah. He's up there for me for MMCs. Really like this book. I did give it a 3.75 stars. I personally did not like the FMC of this book. I thought she was, once again, a little insufferable and just no real character growth. I don't know, it was a lot of up and down, a lot of repeat scenes. I didn't really feel like we were going anywhere with this plot specifically. I just felt like we were all over the board with this, but I still enjoyed it. But I also wasn't like satisfied with it or like obsessed with it like I was the first one. But I am gonna read the next book in the series. I guess that's a good sign. Moving on to June, the month that we just finished. I read 3 books for the month of June. The first one was Face Off by Chelsea Curto. I read this book on the plane flying back to and from, I think, Australia. It kept me busy. It took a 10-hour flight and made it light work. Truly, this book, it's not even the whole story, it's literally the author's dedication. That's what got me. But I gave this book 4.75 stars. Honestly, probably a 5-star, but like I said, trying to be a little less giving of my 5 stars. But this one's up there. I am so excited to read the rest of the books in this series. It is the DC Star series, but this book was beautiful. It's a hockey romance, and this time the MMC and FMC both play professional hockey, so it's a little different than what we typically see, and I absolutely loved it. Definitely recommend reading this one. The next book that I read was the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, which is Reckless by Elsie Silver. I gave this book 4.75 stars. Once again, probably a 5-star, but this book, so Heartless and Reckless, Cade and Theo, this book was so good. I love Theo Silva in this book. It's like the unplanned pregnancy, surprise pregnancy trope. I personally don't like those because I've read like 1 or 2 books with them and I didn't really like it, but this one, Elsie Silver 8, so good. Theo Silva. So read it, please. Read the Chestnut Springs series. I personally didn't like the first one, and then Jasper's book and Sloan, I didn't really care for them. I thought that book was long and dragged out, but this one's definitely worth it. And Heartless is with Cade. So good. The final book that I read for the month of June was Caught Up by Nevessa Allen. This is, I don't know, I think it's called Into Darkness is like the series, but this is the second book in that like little series, I guess. The first one was Lights Out. This one is Caught Up, and I rated this 3.5 stars. I listened to this on Audible because I was doing stuff around the house and I wanted something to listen to keep me busy. Really good. I thought this book was like really sexy, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like hot. So I really enjoyed this book. Once again, the audio narration, Teddy Hamilton did it perfect. We know what we're getting from him. Great narrators. I enjoyed it. 3.5 stars is good. I thought the story was really interesting. I thought both the female and male characters are very complex and diverse in their own ways. I did like the story, but it just wasn't as like eventful as Lights Out was, and I think maybe that's what I'm like comparing it to. But it was also kind of like mafia vibe because Junior is part of like mafia in this, a little bit of that, but it was still a good book and I would definitely recommend listening to the audio version of it. So that is all the books that I have read so far in the first 6 months of this year. I now want to talk about some of my favorite books and some of my least favorite books. So for my favorite book, we know what the answer is. It's Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Probably my book of the year. I already said that. I really did love One Dark Window and Light Lark. I feel like those would be like my runner-ups. Those are definitely my big ones. My least favorite, I think Quicksilver is actually gonna take the cake for this one. This wasn't my favorite. The most surprising book that I've read. I think my most surprising book was Face Off. I don't know what I expect. I think I just expect to be like another hockey romance, a like golden retriever, MMC, like whatever. No, this book was really good. And I think it was so much more than like a hockey romance. Just to wrap some things up, I want to talk about my goals for the remainder of the year. Reach my reading goal, which I definitely know I can, and start reading books off of my TBR that I have here. All of these books on my bookshelf are my TBR and I really need to get to them. And also, I definitely want to read some books from new authors that I've never read from, different types of genres that I don't normally reach for, or that I've seen that's really popular, or just more non-popular books. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and just seeing everything that I've read so far in 2025, and let me guys know down in the comments what you guys have read, some books that you're looking out for, and what your reading goals are if you have any. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.